Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Faster Masters Rowing Radio, where having a rowing coach only makes you better. Following a program gives you a true pathway to becoming a confident sculler who's respected by your peers. You can become the athlete you want to row with. I'm Rebecca Caro, and as ever, I am joined by Marlene Royal. Hey, Marlene.
Hello, Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca, and hello, Faster Masters.
Apologies for being a little late just now. The clocks changed in New Zealand, so
yeah, but not in North America. That's what happens. We work on multiple time zones, so once in a while, one country changes, but the other country doesn't change. But anyway, we're here.
Yeah, that's what catches us out. It's definitely the case that it's kind of like a mismatch, and it's not always like 3 weeks later the other country changes.
No, it's always it can be completely different. So anyway, we do our best to keep track of it, but worldtimebuddy.com helps us. So.
World Time Buddy is definitely one of my best tools that I ever discovered. Now, if you're watching us live, hello and welcome. Right, please tell us where you're watching from. Just put something in the comments underneath the live stream, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube. Tell us where you're watching from, and we'll draw you into the conversation in a minute or two. Now, this past week is where we talk about the things that we're doing to advocate for the broader sport of masters rowing, things that are not commercial for our particular business, but where we're keeping an eye out about what's happening in the outside world and bringing your attention to it, which might be something that you want to maybe contribute to or do locally. So, Marlene, what have you been up to this past week?
Well, actually, this week I had a relatively quiet week at home. But what I did do this week to help benefit my coaching, and I would say my knowledge towards working with masters athletes, particularly female athletes, is I read the book Roar by Stacy Sims, who has been a guest on your Rowing Chat podcast. And Stacy Sims' book, she studies female nutrition, and the book Roar is how to match your food and fitness to your unique female physiology and optimum performance, great health, and a strong, lean body for life. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But that was my project this week.
Stacy is a really impressive lady. So she was an undergraduate rower and I think then moved on to triathlon. And one of the biggest insights that she brought to my attention is that a lot of sports science research is done on male athletes, not female.
95%.
Oh, really? As high as that?
95% of the sports research that you read is done on males. There's only something like 5% is done on females until Stacy Sims came along.
It's been really interesting. She makes some really strong points. And one of them was an observation of her own training practice when she was recruited into a sports science study. They had to run on a treadmill or something and they were measuring things. And she said, I had to do it on 2 consecutive weeks. And the first week I performed really well. And the second week, she said, honestly, I felt like my bones were made of lead. And she said, I realized that my menstrual cycle was affecting my performance. And it had overlapped with this particular study. And that was the first time that she realized that training programs aren't written for women as well as, the sports science thing.
Yes, and actually, I think the person who was running that study, when she brought this up, says, "Oh no, we're just going to throw your results out. We're only going to use the men's. Women are erratic; they're all over the place, and we're only going to use the men's." And that's when she was like, "Wait a minute! I think that was the spark. That was the spark when she decided, I'm going to learn about this, and that's what she has gone on to create an entire field of women are not small men is her motto.
Big mantra, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Isn't that something? Now, let's say hello and welcome to some of our live viewers. If you're watching live, tell us where you're watching from. Sheila is in Edmonton in Alberta. Hey, Sheila.
Great. Nice to see Sheila. I know Sheila.
Someone says hi on Facebook. They don't tell us where we're from and we don't know who you are, but very nice. And yeah, we have a Canadian dominant audience today.
Yes.
Jeanette is on.
I like Jeanette's flag. Everyone should add their flag. I think that would be really good. And then we could see where everyone is from.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah. So I'm just going to run through some of the sponsors that we have as ever for the podcast. I'm continuing to build up the rowing directory. This is my attempt to make a global yellow pages for rowing, and it's on rowing.chat, and you go to the menu and click on the word directory. And we have new listings this week from Pontoon, who are an Australian British clothing company, who have a very neat online design tool. So you can upload your club logo and design your row suits, your zooties, as they call them in Australia, online. We have Rantilla Rowing, who have joined the listings. We have Rowing Vinyl, who will do vinyl lettering for naming your boats. We have Peinert Boatworks, who are a very well-known North American boat building company. Nielsen Kellerman, the electronics provider. And that's all the new ones that we've got on for this week, which basically shows I'm slowing down, Marlene. I clearly need to work harder to get more rowing businesses.
You're moving through the alphabet, right? So we have to keep adding, if people in the audience, if you have rowing businesses who are not yet listed on the rowing directory, it is a free directory. It's a great place to go if you want to search anything rowing. And if you go check it out and you see that there's the magazine there that I like to read, it's not listed, or there's a boat builder or somebody who makes boat covers. Anyone who's doing anything rowing in a business sense should be listed on the website. It's free. And, just send a note to Rebecca if you think of someone.
That is awesome. Thank you. A few more of our live watchers. Here we go. Heather Ann Bryker Bell. You're double barreled, Heather. Lovely to meet you from Brisbane. I hope you guys are coming through your lockdown. Sheila tells us she's not rowing yet, so Edmonton hasn't opened up. Well, does that mean it's frozen?
Yeah, the river's probably still frozen. But it won't be long.
From Ohio in the USA. Hello. That was my phone going. Sorry about that. And from Bedford in England. Oh, I wonder if that is the man whose photo I put at the top of the Masters Rowing International group. I'm struggling to remember his name. I put a photo of him looking it was a lovely picture of him right out at the catch. And the river at Bedford has two lines of trees on either side. So it's made for a great photo. He looks a bit exhausted, I have to say. Hello, Peter from the Team Keen Massive.
Great. Welcome.
And Deirdre O'Hara from Galway. Look, she listened to you about the flags. She's got a Galway Irish flag saying she's currently in Hollywood until Sunday.
Yes. Hollywood, Florida. Very nice place to row, by the way. They have they row on the Intercoastal, but also have a very nice area called West Lake where there are no motorboats allowed. So there's a very nice stretch of rowing there, south of Fort Lauderdale. Sheila's frozen.
And she just says it's frozen. And Jeanette is on a 4-week stay-at-home order starting today. Oh, that just must be so gutting.
I know. It's a little bit of a roller coaster, but we're all hanging in there. The sun is shining, so we just have to still take it one day at a time, I think.
We do. Now, the month has turned last weekend, but because of the Easter holiday, we didn't go through what's in the April program. So Faster Masters publishes a monthly new program in 6 separate modules. And although we have programs for individuals, programs for crews, and programs for entire clubs, they're all based on the same principle. So I'm going to throw it over to Marlene. What's in the April program, Marlene?
Well, in the April program, as you know, we post 2 programs because we do have people from the northern hemisphere and people from the southern hemisphere who are following the program. So both programs right now are focused on 1K preparation, but they're in different phases because we have southern hemisphere athletes who are training for their championships, which are going to be in May and June. So one program focuses on a May-June championship, and in North America, the August-September program is still preparation that's looking towards, say, a nationals or championship regatta that's in late summer. And then the strength program goes along with both of those. It's a similar phase. It goes along with both of those for the 1K preparation. In the technique module, the video is Sculling We Like, and Rebecca put a very nice selection of some very good sculling in there with timestamps of what to look for at what different points of the video or the race. So that's quite a nice video. In our performance module, we did quick boat setup, and it's a rigging reference. And when you first get in a boat, if you're rowing at a club or you don't have much time, what do you have to look at to get yourself comfortable in the boat? Or you're in a new single, what do you have to do to get yourself comfortable in the boat? What adjustments to make and how to make those? And for crew selection, there's some guidelines of how to organize a crew for your training sessions. And Rebecca gives quite a few tips on what to take into consideration when you're putting an organized workout together for team boats. In the rowing lifestyle module, our race focus is organizing your race day. So here I wrote about all of the things you have to consider when you're getting ready to go to a regatta, because we're all forward thinking right now. And what do you have to pay attention to, particularly when you get to a new venue? Because there's lots of unfamiliar things when you get to a new venue, and you have to check out, you have to know where things are so that you're not scrambling at the last minute for your race. And there's also a regatta checklist involved there. Our bonus for the month is the recording and the ebook from the functional movement assessment, which was the webinar that we did at the end of March. And that entire recording is posted there along with the ebook, which is downloadable.
Yeah, and the important thing there is that the ebook tells you how to do the tests, and the webinar tells you what stretches and strength training you can do to improve limitations that you discover when you do the tests. And I will say that there was a hilarious moment when we were recording the webinar, and I was just dying to try and do the aeroplane one. I was like, oh, we're going to try that right now.
Airplane row. Yes, one of my favorites. One of my favorites, actually. So
have a look at this wonderful photograph. Isn't that stunning? So this is my photograph of the week and in my background. And this was literally this morning where I row. And that's my doubles partner, Natalie. And it was a little bit bouncy. As you can see, the water's a little bit lumpy. But it was such a tiny moment in time when the sun was exactly like that. It was, we stopped, we paused, I took the photo, we turned around, and literally 2 minutes later, it was gone. The redness was all gone, and it just like the sun came up really quickly.
It looks nice and warm too.
Yeah, it was all right. Now, one of our live watchers says, tonight was supposed to be my first time sweep rowing, but it was cancelled due to the weather. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold in there. The weather will change.
Yes, it will. It will.
Yeah.
Maybe it happened for a reason, so be thankful.
Now, if you're watching live, you can help us improve the number of people who see this by sharing the link. So if you could just hit that share button now and share it out to your friends, just so that more people know what we're doing, and they might join us online. And here is Mark, who has a 2 flags. He's got South Africa and, oh, is that Germany or Belgium?
Yes, no, I think
That's
it's Germany.
Belgium is it vertically, isn't it?
Yes.
Sorry, Mark, if I got that wrong. South Africa's so easy to spot. Like, no one has a flag like South Africa.
Yeah, it's like the Brazilian flag. You can't miss it too.
That is so true. Now, Marlene and I did our prep for the month of April. And while we were going through our checklists, we went, oh my goodness, so many countries have now announced that they're running a Masters National Championships. Alleluia.
I know. Awesome? And it's for a coach, I have to tell everyone, it is such a relief to know that there's a championship and a regatta on the horizon because.
Yeah. So I did a little check. The USA has announced their nationals. I know New Zealand has one. I know Australia has one. I know that the European Championships, which I think is run by FISA, is happening. There's a Czech Masters International Regatta. I think that Great Britain has said maybe. They haven't said definitely yes. So help us out, guys, in the chat. Who knows of more countries where Masters are going to be racing?
Is FISA World Masters scheduled still?
Yeah, FISA World Masters has been scheduled. That's in Linz-Ottensheim in Austria.
That's a beautiful. Yep, and that's a beautiful place. And aren't there European Masters in June in Bled?
Yeah, that's right. And then that's, I think, just after the Czech Masters Nationals. So yeah, but anyway, the lifting of my personal spirits was enormous when I read that. I was like, oh, that's just so nice. And as a result, we know there were guys in our club who were down at the boat shed this morning doing early morning outings for the first time in a long while, because you've got something to work for.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think everybody is so ready to race and, have a goal and stop like literally treading water. We've been doing drills in place long enough, I think.
Here, a listener says the UK has confirmed the Masters champs for June. Thank you very much for that. So that's really good. So we're obviously waiting on Ireland, and I gather South Africa doesn't have a Masters champs as such, but I know that the FISA World Masters is going there in 2023.
Oh, that's interesting. That's quite a trip. I have not heard an announcement from Canada as of yet. So maybe somebody else has, but I have not yet. But
do people from Canada travel to the US to do the Masters Nationals?
Yes, some do. And it depends where it is. Like, for example, in years when it was held in Michigan, which is just over the border, you might have a very large Canadian contingent, but there generally is. Yes, because the Canadian Henley, which is in St. Catharines, Ontario, is usually about the week before. And then some people go on to US Masters Nationals as well. That's quite a large regatta.
Mark says we do have a Masters champs in South Africa. Well, that's really good to know, Mark. And hopefully there'll be a date confirmed there for people who are keen. And please let us know. Are you starting training? Are you picking crews? Are you just a teensy bit nervous? I mean, we haven't raced for a year. It's like, does it feel like you're stepping out into the void?
Well, that's even just getting back to regular life and going somewhere, for people who have not gone anywhere or left home for a year or not, who are used to traveling, it's a little bit strange to think about going anywhere right now. So, but we'll get over it really quickly, I think.
I hope so. Mark confirms it's the World Masters Championships in South Africa in 2023. So put that on your bucket list. What great opportunity. Not quite sure what you're going to do for boats. The boat rental guys are going to be super busy. Now, our big topic for this week is a delicate one. It's about eating disorders and sport training. It's becoming increasingly apparent that there are more and more challenges and people facing their attitude to food upsetting a normal balanced relationship. And Marlene brought this to my attention because Stephen shared a superb video with us, which I will put the link into the show note chat. And this was an interview that was done. It was called The Female Athlete, and it was done by an institute for Nordic sport skiing in Norway, interviewing, Marlene, tell me, who is the interviewee?
They were interviewing Jessica Diggins, who is a U.S. Nordic skier. She's an Olympic champion in the sprint event and became the first U.S. woman to win the Nordic World Cup this year.
Congratulations.
So she's 29 years old right now.
Yeah. And she and her coach came onto this podcast to talk about the fact that a few years ago, she was diagnosed with bulimia and how this affected her training. And also she was very, very clear about the psychology of what caused it and the solution as she came out of it and back into regular training.
Yes, I thought it was quite interesting that she talked about this because she got professional help with it. And in her case, the eating disorder was her way of coping with stress. And she described herself as a very type A personality, someone who was very hard on themselves. She says, I'm not a person who goes with the flow, very putting herself under great demands for perfectionism and in sport. And this is what led to her eating disorder. But when she actually got professional help, one of the things she learned was genetics. This is what she said: genetics loads the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger. So you might have some because bulimia and eating disorders fall into the category of mental health issues. So she said, you might have some predisposition to this. However, you may experience this early in your life. You may experience this later in your life. You may never experience this life because it depends somewhat what type of environment you are in. And in her case, she was racing, the cross-country skier. She felt enormous pressure to be lean and to fit into some perfect body image that she felt was going to make her faster. And she said, it, in your mindset, it gives you some illusion of being in control. She said, but in reality, it was her severe reaction to stress. And, fortunately, her parents recognized this. And she was 18, 19, 20 years old at this time. And she had not yet, she was a very good skier at this point, but she had not had any major success at this point. Her major success actually came afterwards because she went for professional help and her parents encouraged her to. And her body was so lacking in nutrients, and they were concerned for her heart and her entire nutritional profile. And, she said it was just impossible to be a high level athlete and to be in such a depleted state, actually. And so she had to go through a lot of therapy. She continued to train during this time, but she had to go through this, working through all this, like no self-confidence and very low self-esteem, and, really had to come to terms with, how to be yourself and how to be who you are, and realize that you can still be the best in the world, even if you are not, quote, perfect. And one of the things I thought was quite interesting was she said, yeah, weight is a factor. And this is a factor for a lot of not only women, but men too suffer from this, because, they get very concerned about weight if they're cycling, if they're skiing, if they're running. She said, yes, but your overall weight is a factor. But she said, my brain is the biggest factor in my success. And she said, to be successful skiing, my brain is the major factor. My fitness is a major factor. My technique is a major factor. The quality of my equipment is a major factor. Having a pacing plan is a factor. And she just went on and on how, if I look at body weight, it's like, this is low on the list for success. And I thought that was quite eye-opening.
Very interesting that I'm guessing the psychological help and support that she got brought her round to that point of view. And they do say that, psychology and psychotherapy only works when the person comes to the realization on their own. You can tell people as much as you like, but they won't believe you until they come to their own realization. And one of the remarks she made that was very resonant with me, that even within her sport of high level Nordic skiing, she recognized that there were some very, very substantially different body shapes and body types, and that you didn't have to be the smallest and the thinnest to be successful.
Yes, absolutely. Because, and in rowing, it's the same. I mean, we have a stereotypical ideal that we think about. But if you look at, for example, you look at a race like in Athens, the Olympic final in Athens, you have very different types of women. You have Karsten, you have Karatovich, and Stemperovsky, and and you just look, you look, and you might have very tall, lean woman. You may have very big women with long limbs. You might have shorter, more powerful types of bodies. And certainly in Nordic skiing, you see all different types of body weight. I mean, she did talk about that. Yes, weight is a
consideration.
Yes, and the coach, her coach, Matt Whitcomb, was quite interesting. And he said that if we want athletes working with dietitians and nutritionists, and if it's losing a little bit of weight for their fitness level is a healthy part of their peaking plan, then I let them handle that with their nutritionist. But there's not this culture that you have to be as thin as possible, because there's a point when your body's going to break down. You're going to get sick. You're going to lose muscle mass. You may not have the proper nutrients to fuel your workouts. And she said, until I was back on track with my health, she said, that's when I made the world championship team for the first time, because before, you can't train twice a day or 3 times a day for 4 or 6 hours if you don't have nutrients and fuel. Your body cannot perform or recover. So it was very, very, very interesting how the podcast host, said, well, why didn't you just ask your coach for help in the beginning? And she said, but for many athletes, it's really difficult to go to their coach because there's an imbalance of power. And she said, if your coach is the selector and you're coming to a coach with many athletes might be afraid to come to a coach with a problem to show a vulnerability because that might affect their selection. And so, that was an interesting issue. And she said, they said, well, what's the best thing a coach can do? And she said, the best thing that a coach can do for the team, and what my coach did for me, is just said, I'm here for you. If you need to talk, if you need to go to a walk, if you need to lower, if your stress is going into the red zone and we just need to bring things down. He said, it's a struggle like any other struggle that you need to address and just be there for the athlete and help them through it, or refer them to the right types of professionals. one thing he made very clear was that as the role of a coach, it is not my job to be the professional that solves the problem. It's my job to be the facilitator so that the athlete gets the right professional help that they need to continue their athletic pursuits in a healthy way. And I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah. And one of the things that he said that he could facilitate was within the entirety of the training squad to make it okay to talk about these things. Mm-hmm. And I think hearing that made me realize how actually what sort of power a coach can bring and can lead a group towards acceptance. Mm-hmm. So it's really, really interesting.
And now, it does affect athletes of all age and men and women, and I am sure that there are masters, men and women, who maybe struggle with their body image and it's, maybe part of their competitive profile. One thing Jessica said I thought was very good. And this is sort of to quote her, she said, you find success in sport over time. So you have to take care of yourself. And if you don't take care of yourself, you are not going to be successful in sport because it takes time. And there are many, many body types that succeed in sport. I thought that was quite good.
That is so true. Now, in our chat, we've got some amazing comments. And thank you so much for everybody who's with us live. One remark here, surely eating disorders are more prevalent among lightweights than open weight rowers. Do you have a view on this?
I would say, we probably don't know, because you can be an open weight rower and have an eating disorder, because it again, it's more of a mental health issue, and again, we know about it. I mean, Stacy Sims said it can be 25 or 30% of women, because she's writing about women, her book, had some issue with body image. So that is quite what the scale is, we don't know, but 25 to 30% of all women have had some issue with body image, and self-image is quite a lot. But certainly with lightweights, I know in the US, at when I was racing, when we saw the team doctor, if you were too tall and your body fat percentage was going to be too low, they would not allow you to row lightweights. I mean, there were some screening processes.
So Mark says lightweight coaches don't know about nutrition unless they actually rowed themselves. And he says coaching heavyweights and school children is one thing. Lightweights are another level. Yes.
But what a coach can do is bring in a sports nutritionist as a guest speaker. I know when I rode lightweight, I was in Boston. So Nancy Clark, the sports nutritionist, was in Boston, and the team would invite her to come and to talk to us and educate. I would say education is number one. That's, I think, try to get things early. That was one of the things Jessica Diggins said, that, act early. If you think that there's some issue, the earlier you can address it, the better.
For sure. Another one of our live watchers says that Australia is introducing lightweight singles at the Masters National Champs this year. I wonder if or how that will impact disordered eating in Masters athletes. Now, is that the standard lightweight category? So 72 kgs for men and 59 for women? And I know that Canada does flyweight, which is, do they do that at the nationals as well?
In Henley, they used to do flyweight. At nationals, I don't know, but I think the weight is the 59 kilos. I think is there's just a standard maximum, but yes, it is lightweight, and for sometimes for masters women, or if you're in your 50s and you think, oh, I want to get down to that lightweight weight, it may not be that easy, given your age and your change in hormones, and how your body may or may not want to react to it. So one thing I I took away from Stacy Sims' book is she strongly recommends do not focus on your weight on the scale. Focus on building your lean body mass. So that's where our strength training becomes important. Our power training becomes important for men and women, because of your hormonal changes. You need to stimulate the proteins, the muscle synthesis to keep your muscle mass, and you have to do that by means of power training and resistance training, because your hormones have now changed. Your hormones aren't doing it for you. And should I list? She had a couple key actions she thought were really important for people. Okay, so key actions from Stacy Sims. Make sure that you sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. Front load your calories. So more carbs in the morning and progress to higher protein in the evening, because that's how your body is designed to burn them. So you want to fill your gas tank in the morning, basically. Your body is leans more towards protein metabolism. Fruit, because that's going carbohydrate, so you're not going to get your spikes in blood sugar, for example, with protein sources, and increase B12 rich foods, so things like fish and eggs.
That sounds like excellent advice. Now, one of our
very good tips for focusing on developing a higher lean body mass versus just focusing on weight.
Now, one of our live watchers has told us that he used to row under 23 lightweights and became bulimic. And his challenge, he said, was coping with training alongside heavyweights was a really big factor. As he says, you can't prepare for lightweight if you're stuck in the middle weights. You're too small to be heavy and too heavy to be lightweight. And as he then goes on to say, eating out of dustbins from leftover food and throwing up due to guilt is no joke.
Yes, and there is there is a syndrome that's called REDS now. It used to be called the female triad, where if the red flags for an eating disorder combined with amenorrhea if it's a woman, and also if they identify loss of bone minerals. So these are things that are treated quite seriously, but you have to, I think Jessica Diggins had the right advice that you really have to take care of yourself, and if you're not sure about your nutrition, or if you're repeatedly low energy, or you're having difficulty recovering, the first place to look is your sleep pattern, your hydration, and your nutrition level, because if you're running low on really important nutrients, your body's simply just not going to recover.
Marlene, could you just repeat the nutrition advice that you started off with?
Sure. Stacy Sims, her key actions for focusing on improving lean body mass versus focusing on weight, on the number on the scale. Make sure that you sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. Front load your calories during the day. Front load your calories, carbs in the morning. As you move through the day, progress more towards protein later in the day. Your body metabolizes carbs better earlier in the day, and protein better later in the day. So, your carbs will fuel your energy and your training, and then your proteins will help your body repair through the night. Increase your levels of vitamin D, calcium, magnesium, protein, and healthy fats. So healthy fats, olive oil, avocados, these types of things, omega-3 fats. Match fruits, vegetables, and grains with proteins. So combining fruits, vegetables, and grains together with proteins will help control blood sugar spikes. So it's going to reduce carbohydrate sensitivity. So some foods, if you eat just the carbs, it's going to influence the blood glucose level. So you want to match those things with proteins, or like fruit with a piece of cheese, or something like olive oil on your salad, or fish with your salad, something like that. And then increase B12 rich foods. So higher levels of foods like eggs, different fish sources.
Fantastic. Thank you for repeating that. That is brilliant. And here's an example of what lightweight nutrition was, presumably a few years ago, Mark. Apple for breakfast, banana with 2 slices of brown bread for lunch, a matchbox of tuna with a cup of brown pasta for supper, and training 3 times a day. Wow. No wonder.
Yes, and you're probably burning 3,000 or 4,000 calories in training. So that, that's where your sport, a consultation with a sports nutritionist, even on a one-time basis, can be so incredibly enlightening, because most athletes don't realize how much they can eat. And if they do need to lose some excess weight, they can, you can do that by simply reducing a small amount of calories, or shifting your timing of your calories. That's probably a bigger factor than sometimes the actual calories when you eat your carbohydrates, when you time your proteins. And if you're low energy and you're training, definitely a consultation with a sports nutritionist can help you, tell you, yes, you are allowed to eat, you need to eat, you need fuel. And I think it's easy for people to go to an extreme and think they have to cut really drastically, but you don't. You need to, maybe you don't need to cut at all. You have to, that's what you have to identify. You have to find out, is it reasonable for you to reach that weight goal or not? And that's the first place to start, I think.
Yeah, for sure. A remark from one of our watchers saying there are lightweight singles events in the European Masters as well. So we can definitely look forward to that. And an update from Ireland. There are no Irish Masters champs in Ireland this year, but something may be held if the non-championship Masters events have to be removed from the Champs Regatta. So I think what that means is, in normal years, the Masters Champs is combined with the national and junior rowing championships into a single giant regatta. And so they're looking at possibly juggling that. Thank you for that. That's pretty helpful. And a very late hello from Cece, as she realized my notification for the time of this event was an hour later. That's because Rebecca got it wrong.
She's running in the woods with Tucker. Well, we're glad you're running, Cece, but just make sure you eat enough after you finish running, okay? That's the deal. You have to refuel. That's the deal.
Definitely. So any final words, Marlene, or are we going to wrap this up for another week?
Well, I think our goal this week is to take really good care of ourselves. And I really like Jessica Diggins, words of wisdom that, we're in sport for a long time. And if you're going to be successful in your sport for a long time, you have to take good care of yourself so that you have a good mentality, so that you don't have injuries. When you become low body weight, you will be prone to more injuries. So be kind to yourself and take good care of yourself, and take good care of the others on your team as well.
And if you have the chance this week in your training group to broach the subject of eating disorders, I think that could be quite beneficial. And please feel free to share the link to this podcast, which we will publish on our blog on fastermastersrowing.com as a permanent reminder. And I will write up the show notes with a lot of that excellent advice that Marlene summarized for us about how to eat, when to eat, and what to look out for in terms of your own personal mental health and how that affects your eating. Faster Masters Rowing Radio is the show that's dedicated to masters rowers. You having a rowing coach only makes you better. Following a program gives you a true pathway to becoming a confident sculler who's respected by your peers. You can become the master you want to row with. This has been Rebecca and Marlene for another week. Please like, comment, and share. We very much appreciate it anytime someone subscribes, which you can do in the YouTube channel, or if you go to our website and join our mailing list, or open any podcast app, you'll find Faster Masters Rowing Radio in there. So till next time, bye-bye.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jeanette.